Let's talk about one of the biggest stories in global defense right now, India's absolutely massive military modernization. And this is so much more than just buying some new fighter jets. It's a story about homegrown ambition, really complex global partnerships, and the incredible pressure to build a truly world-class fighting force for the 21st century.
So, how do you even do that? That's the real question driving everything. I mean, it's like walking a strategic tightrope. On one side, you have to develop next-gen tech and build new alliances. But on the other, you're dealing with very real, very immediate threats and the huge challenge of building up a defense industry almost from the ground up. That's the balancing act.
All right, part one. So, where are we seeing some real, tangible progress? Well, it starts with one of the biggest success stories so far, the big push for self-reliance, what you know as Make in India. And you know, the goal has totally shifted. It's not just about making stuff for their own military anymore, it's about becoming a serious player on the world stage. And listen, the numbers don't lie. Just last fiscal year, the 7 new companies that were created from the old Ordnance Factory Board, they hit a record export high. We're talking over 3,500 crore rupees. That's about 425 million US dollars. And to put that into perspective, just one of those companies, Munitions India Limited, accounted for most of that. So yeah, this plan, it's definitely gaining steam.
And we're not talking about simple stuff here. This Make in India push is getting into some seriously high-tech territory. Tata's going to be building 2 complete fuselages, the main body of the aircraft, for the Rafale fighter jet every single month. And get this is the crucial part. They're not just for India's jets. They're going into the global supply chain. That is a huge vote of confidence.
Okay, part 2. But here's the thing, no country can go it alone. Right? Building up your own industry is one piece of the puzzle, but a huge part of India's strategy today is weaving this web of international partnerships to get new tech and secure its interests.
I mean, just look at the dance card here. It is all over the map, strategically speaking. You've got them doing major exercises in Egypt, sending Navy ships to the Seychelles, and at the same time still talking to Russia about more S-400 systems. Then you flip over to Europe, and they're co-developing torpedoes with Germany and looking at new missiles from the UK. It really is a multi-aligned foreign policy in action.
All right, part 3. So we have domestic production starting to hum. Global partnerships are growing, but what kind of military is all this effort actually building? This is where things get really interesting, because we have to talk about the new tech and the new ideas that are completely changing the game.
Well, you've got to look at what's happening in the neighborhood, and the pace of change is just insane. China recently showed off a 2-seater version of its J-20 stealth fighter. And you're probably thinking, wait, a second seat in a highly automated stealth jet? Why? Well, the answer points to a whole new way of thinking about air combat.
And that new way of thinking is all about this concept, the loyal wingman. See that second person in the J-20? They're not a co-pilot. They are a mission commander, and their job is to control a whole swarm of unmanned drones. Just think about it. These drones can fly out ahead, they can act as sensors, they can jam enemy radar, or even fire their own weapons. It's a total game changer.
So, what's India's answer to this kind of future warfare? Well, the Navy has been rolling out something they call cooperative engagement capability. It basically turns the whole fleet into one giant networked weapon. It's simple, really. One ship detects a threat, it instantly shares that data across the network, and boom! Another ship, maybe miles away but in a better position, is the one that actually fires the missile to take it down. It's a classic force multiplier. And up in the air, we're seeing some huge leaps, too. India's workhorse Su-30 jets, they're being modified to carry a brand new long-range cruise missile. We're talking a range of 1,500 kilometers. This gives the Air Force the ability to hit targets way, way deep in enemy territory, all without putting its own pilots at risk. That's a big deal. Now, it all sounds pretty good so far, right? But let's get real. A project this massive is never a straight line. There are always going to be hurdles, tough questions, and the one thing that plagues every big defense program, delays. This is where ambition meets reality. And here is a perfect example, the timeline for the homegrown Tejas Mark II fighter. So the original target was late 2025. Then that slipped to early 2026. And now the latest word is 2027. And when a key project like this keeps getting pushed back, it has a ripple effect that can mess up the Air Force's entire plan. And it's not just about production schedules. The naval version of that same Tejas jet has hit a completely different kind of wall. The top brass in the Navy are just, well, they're not sold on the safety of flying a single-engine jet over the vast open ocean. I mean, if that one engine fails, you are in serious trouble. It's a tough reminder that this new gear has to meet the harshest real-world demands.
So this brings up the obvious question, right? If your own programs are struggling and getting delayed, why not just go buy the best stuff from a foreign partner? It sounds like a simple fix, but oh, the reality is so much more complicated than that.
Let's just take the F-35, for example. It's arguably the most advanced fighter jet on the planet. But a recent report from the U.S. Congressional Budget Office dropped some pretty shocking numbers about its long-term reliability. After just 6 years, the percentage of Air Force F-35s that are actually ready to fly on any given day plummets to below 20%. And look at the Marine and Navy versions, it's less than 10%. It just shows that even the most expensive, top-tier foreign hardware comes with its own massive set of question marks.
So let's step back and look at the whole picture. On one hand, you've got a domestic industry that's exporting more than ever. The global partnerships are getting deeper and more diverse. But on the other hand, the most important homegrown projects are facing critical delays. And just buying off the shelf from another country isn't a magic solution either. It's this incredible mix of real progress and some very formidable challenges.
And all of that brings us to the final multi-billion-dollar question. As the nature of war itself gets faster and more complex, is India's ambitious modernization program moving fast enough? Is it keeping pace, not just to catch up, but to actually stay ahead of the curve? That's the question at the very heart of this entire effort.